Is the so-called good life killing you? Could the fast food and inactivity of your typical day be the key reason for your poor health today? 70% of all deaths are now attributed to lifestyle choices. And thanks to obesity-related health issues, this will be the first generation to live shorter lives than their parents. We all know the solution: move more and eat better. But we also know the power of bad habits. How do you change an entire lifetime of unhealthy choices? You can't do it alone, but there is help.
Well, I was about 50, a little over 50, and I had been obese for about 30 years and weighed about 80 pounds over my wedding day weight. I just, felt tired all the time, didn't have a lot of motivation for doing much of anything. I knew I needed to lose the weight, and I needed a program that I could do easily and for the rest of my life. When I found out about CHIP, I began to apply the principles that were taught. I began to lose weight. The weight just melted off, and within a short time, I was feeling a whole lot better. I was able to fit back into my wedding dress for my 35th wedding anniversary, something I had always dreamed of and didn't think I'd ever be able to do again. And as I was walking one day, I had so much energy that I just felt like bursting into a run, which I hadn't done for many years. On top of that, I was able to play with my grandson in the park, and I wasn't getting sick anymore like I used to. CHIP just gave me my life back, and it's a lifestyle that I can do for the rest of my life.
Heart disease, cancer, diabetes, and high blood pressure. These diseases, virtually unknown 100 years ago, are now responsible for 3 out of 4 deaths. Today, obesity is the #1 health concern in the Western world. Sadly, our unhealthy lifestyle isn't just affecting adults. Obesity and its lifelong health consequences is now the top concern for children. But what hope is there for children if parents are settling for a life of medications, dialysis, angioplasties, and bypasses?
I first woke up, so to speak, when I was working on the anesthesia service, learning how to put people to sleep. And I was seeing my patients for the next day's surgery for coronary artery bypass surgery in order to bypass clogged arteries in their heart. Because it was late at night, I drew the man's blood test, and when I took the blood to the laboratory and had it processed, I couldn't believe my eyes. Now, normally, this liquid layer floating on top of the blood clot is quite transparent. It's a yellow, but quite clear. You can see right through it. The blood in this patient's tube, however, was anything but clear. The serum floating on his clot was thick and greasy white. It looked like glue. In fact, it stuck to the sides of the blood tube when I shook the tube. I went back to the patient. I said, "Mr. Phillips, did you eat before you came to the hospital tonight?" He said, "Yes." I said, "What did you have?" He said, "I had a cheeseburger and a milkshake." And when he said that, I realized that what I was looking at in his tube was all the fat in the beef burger, all the butter fat in the cheese, and the butter fat in the ice cream and in the milkshake. And all this fat had oozed out into his blood and actually turned his blood fatty. The next morning, we took Mr. Phillips to the operating room, and I put him to sleep, and the surgeon opened up his chest. And from these arteries, he began pulling out yellow, greasy deposits of fatty material called atherosclerosis.
Clearly, our indulgent Western lifestyle isn't working. But how can we change? Did you know that lifestyle diseases aren't just preventable, but also largely reversible? The Complete Health Improvement Program, CHIP for short, is the preeminent community lifestyle intervention education program where participants start to see a dramatic difference in their biometrics after 30 days into their 3-month-long program. Clogged arteries begin to open up, blood pressures come down, diabetes turns around, people eat more but they lose weight, and high cholesterol levels drop often more than 20%.
I thought life was just great. I felt well, and then bang, I got told you've got 6 arteries that are blocked and 99% blocked. And so that was a bit of a surprise. I had to have 5 bypasses after that, after getting over the operation and what had to happen there. I Went back onto my normal diet, which I thought was great. I had a good diet, I thought. Went back and had blood tests, and I was surprised. My cholesterol was raised, blood pressure was up, and at that point I was introduced to the CHIP program. I went onto it immediately, straight away. I thought, I have to do this. Within 2 months of going on the CHIP program, all halved. My cholesterol was halved, blood pressure was down. In fact, I had to lower my blood pressure pills because I was getting dizzy. So hey, that was great. And then that's allowed me now to get back into the things I love. 2 weeks ago, I got back on the bike, and one thing I really noticed, when I used to bike before, I was always out of breath. I went out 2 weeks ago, I hit the hills, I didn't even get a sweat. I was doing some marvellous riding, getting back on the bike, biking with my friends, living life to the full. And to me, that my life is just beginning again.
CHIP is all about choices. Safe, simple, deliberate lifestyle choices. CHIP gives you the education, motivation, and support structure needed to make smarter choices. Over 50,000 CHIP graduates are living proof that CHIP works.
In fact, to date, CHIP has over 20 published papers in peer-reviewed academic journals in the medical and scientific literature. And we believe that makes it one of the most well-published community-based lifestyle interventions in the world. In fact, just recently, the American College of Lifestyle Medicine presented these results and discussed this paper on their website. And this is what they said. This study demonstrates clinical results of a large, we're talking 5,070, free living cohort in North America, yielding some of the most impressive recorded clinical changes ever in the literature.
Medical professionals around the world are taking notice.
The results of the CHIP program are very impressive. I don't know any program like it.
Corporations are bringing CHIP to their workers, reducing medical costs and health insurance premiums, while improving productivity through the reduction of absenteeism and presenteeism.
I'm the General Manager for Sanitarium Australia. I head a $400 million plus sales FMCG company. We have 4 plants here in Australia, and we have a large portfolio of consumer brands which we sell and compete with other multinational competitors in a very fast-moving market, very aggressive market. We have a large range of people from a large range of walks of life that work with us here in operations right through to sales. And to be productive, to be engaged, to be present is really important in our business, and also for people not to be absent, to not be away sick or feeling that they don't want to work. So as a result of my experience, we made this conscious decision to invest in the program. We believe that it would have significant benefits, first and foremost for our staff, because they're the most important thing for us, but secondly for the company. That there would be a huge knock-on effect for us, and that I find quite exciting. And today, I know that over 300 people in our company have enrolled in the program. It's early days, but there's a lot of excitement, there's a lot of enthusiasm around what the program can do for them. CHIP gives me a resilience that I haven't had before. It gives me a physical resilience, it gives me a mental resilience, it gives me this all-rounded approach to life, which I can now engage in my workplace in a much different and more productive way. It keeps me safe. It keeps me a younger man, a more active man. And I felt as I was starting to age, as I was starting to get out of shape, that I was losing that.
CHIP can help you get the healthy life you've dreamed of, kick the old habits of the so-called good life, and help you step confidently into the best life.
I felt that I was living a healthy lifestyle, but I was starting to have a few problems that I attributed to aging. I did not consider myself obese, but I had gained 40 pounds over a period of about 25 years. My cholesterol was raising, my blood pressure was beginning to creep up. I was on medication, a series of medications for lowering my cholesterol, but the condition that affected my lifestyle the most was the osteoarthritis in my knees. I had very limited mobility and limited range of motion, constant pain, and this was affecting the interaction with my grandchildren. When I first began making changes through the CHIP program, pounds began to melt off right away. Inflammation and other symptoms of my osteoarthritis in my knees just disappeared. I was able to eliminate medication that I was taking for cholesterol. I felt so much better, had so much energy, and I truly believe I was healthier than I was in my 40s. CHIP has given me a second chance for an active life and a long life. I'm really looking forward to being an active part of my grandchildren's lives as they grow, and I've chosen to be healthy for the rest of my life.
To find out more about CHIP or to sign up for a program, visit our website on www.chiphealth.com.
What will your last 10 years look like? Will you be quick enough for a game of tag with your grandchild? Strong enough to embrace every moment? Will you grow old with vitality? Or get old with disease? It's time to decide. The average Canadian will spend their last 10 years in sickness. Change your future at makehealthlast.ca.
All right, what do we got?
Just came in. Heart attack. 5'9", 300 pounds, 32 years old.
How the hell does that happen?
Can I get a, Could be developing diabetes. You have to make a change. Oh, yeah.
You're graduating! Watch TV. You won't even have to leave.
You can't do this.
Yes, can I get a...
Yeah, no, deep dish.
You have to make a change. Good job, Jim. You got an A+.
Here are your fries, sweetie.
believe you give this child French fries.
I know, but it's the only thing that'll make him stop.
We already know that a lot of Filipinos are dying from heart disease every single day. Tonight, we will be learning who among those Filipinos are affected, because we used to think that heart disease is only for adults. But in this lesson, in this session that we will have tonight, you will realize that heart disease, even the first sign of the development of the hardening of the arteries in our blood vessels in our heart, are starting to happen in childhood. So that means parents who are listening in our webinar right now, who are joining us, you have something to do with the development of those fatty streaks in the blood vessels in the heart of your children. I'll be showing you here some landmark studies that will tell you how fatty streaks are being formed in the blood vessels of children and how heart disease is being developed, and what's the expected age, for it to cause heart attack to a certain person. Now, it was in this landmark study that was published in 1953, if you can see in your screen now, that radically changed our view about the development of heart disease. So this is a series of 300 autopsies performed in the United States battle casualties during the Korean War. Now, as you can see here, average age of coronary artery disease was found at age 22. And take note, 22, but 77% of those hearts, they have seen some gross evidences of coronary atherosclerosis already. So atherosclerosis means hardening of your blood vessels. Those are basically because of the cholesterol plaques that are stored inside your blood vessels. So meaning when we say gross evidence, this is visible to the naked eye. You don't even need to place it in the microscope for you to see that there is atherosclerosis or hardening of the arteries. Okay, now some of them have even clogged up to 90% or more. You see, at that age, they were able to see about 90% occlusion of the blood vessels in the heart at this age group. Now, as the editorial of the American Journal of Medical Association have concluded this widely cited publication dramatically showed that atherosclerosis, again, or the hardening of the arteries, appear in the coronary arteries. The coronary arteries means the blood vessel in your heart. Okay, now you will see here that years and decades before the age at which coronary heart disease becomes clinically recognized a problem. And so the next question here is that, how young does it go? Now, this might be surprising to you, but here is actually the evidence. Fatty streaks, which is the first stage of heart disease or hardening of arteries, was found in the arteries of 100% of kids by age 10. You see? So what's accounting for this buildup of plaque even in childhood? So if you come to think of it, if you have any kid in the house right now, aging 10 years old and over, tendencies are they already have the heart disease. So later on, we will learn what increases the risk, what increases the chances of developing these atherosclerotic plaques or streaks in the blood vessels of your children and yourself as well. Now, during the 80s, we got the first clue basing on this study. This is what we call the famous Bogalusa heart study. Now, they look at the autopsies of those who died between ages 3 and 26. And the number one risk factor they've found out in the development of atherosclerosis is simply the cholesterol. Now, looking at the figure here, you will see the stepwise increase in the amount in their arteries covered with fatty streaks as the level of bad cholesterol in the blood increases. So I'm sure you know what the bad cholesterol is all about. We call it the LDL, or the low density lipoprotein. So if you get yourself tested in the laboratory for a lipid profile, you will find there your bad cholesterol or your LDL. So this is a powerful predictor for the development of atherosclerosis. Okay, but as powerful as this was only looking at 30 kids, okay, in this study. So now they decided to study 3,000. Okay, this is 3,000 accidental death aging 15 to 34. So after thousands of autopsies, they were able to produce a scoring system to be able to predict advanced atherosclerotic lesions in coronary arteries of young people. So here you can see that the higher the score, the higher the likelihood that you have this lesion growing in your heart. So that means you have that atherosclerotic plaques growing in your heart and narrowing the blood vessels of your heart. Now, say for example, if you smoke, your risk goes up a point. Okay, now if you have high blood pressure at such a young age, that's 4 points. And if you're obese, that's 6 points. But look, if you have high cholesterol, that is the worst. That is having 8 times worse risk than smoking. So here, this is predicting your likelihood to having a lesion in your heart basing on the scoring system. So let's say you're at age 16, okay? You're only age 16 with relatively high level of cholesterol, but you do not smoke, you're not overweight, your blood pressure and your blood sugar are normal. So there is just a few percentage chance that you already have an advanced atherosclerotic lesion in your heart. So that means there is less chances that you have hardening of the arteries in your blood vessel. But see, if you don't improve your diet by your 30th birthday at age 30, there may be 1 in 5 chances of having serious heart disease. Okay, and if you have really high cholesterol, your risk will be as high as 1 in 3. But say you bring your diet to lacto-ovo vegetarian. So as you can see here in the figure, you're down somewhere here. And if you exercise to boost your HDL, you can go down a little further. So that's how important it is that we start modifying our lifestyle, because every simple change may have a good and positive effect with our heart health. So what this shows us is that even 15 to 19-year-old atherosclerosis, or hardening of the arteries, has begun in a substantial number of individuals. And this observation suggests beginning primary prevention at least by the late teenage years to ameliorate every stage of atherosclerosis and to prevent or retard the progression of more advanced lesions. So this is as simple as starting our kids on a low saturated fat diet, and you may see a significant improvement in their arterial function by 11 years old. Because we can see now in the studies that exposure to high serum cholesterol, even in childhood, may accelerate the development of atherosclerosis. And of course, consequently, the long-term prevention of atherosclerosis might be most effective when this is initiated early in life. Now, you can see in this study, it says as early as 7 months of age. So again, as you can see in the figure, atherosclerosis, or hardening of arteries, begins in childhood. And remember, by age 10, we were all kids, and the fatty streaks, the first stage of disease, is already there. And then the plaques start forming in our 20s, then worst in our 30s, and then can start killing us off. Now, in our heart, it's a heart attack. In our brain, it's called a stroke. In our extremities, it could mean gangrene, and then in our aorta, it's an aneurysm. If there's anyone joining in this webinar now that is older than 10 years of age, the choice likely is not whether or not to eat healthy to prevent heart disease. It's whether or not to arrest and reverse the heart disease that we already have. Now I'd like to show you the 2019 guidelines for prevention of cardiovascular disease. So this is actually the first time that the American College of Cardiology and the American Heart Association have put together multiple guidelines into one comprehensive package in an attempt to prevent patients from having their first cardiac event. As you can see, the first focus here in the guideline is a patient-centered approach to comprehensively prevent using a collaborative model with a team of multiple specialists, including physicians, nutritionists, smoking cessation experts, and the goal here is to achieve a team-based delivery with shared decision and evaluation on how do you help patients to attain a sustainable lifestyle for them to prevent any cardiac events. Here you will see in the primary prevention the ABCD as primary approach to patients with atherosclerosis. This is exposing lifestyle change on a team-based care. You see, so we have here, even if we provide or we prescribe medicine to patient, we want to monitor and we want to control their blood pressure, their cholesterol, their cigarette intake, their diet, their weight, control their diabetes, and of course their physical activity. Now, in this algorithm, you will see here that number one emphasis basically to prevent atherosclerotic cardiovascular disease or hardening of your blood vessels in the heart is in fact adherence to healthy lifestyle. So that means we implement this to patients at the onset of the disease and as maintenance intervention. Now, going back to cholesterol, we know very well that cholesterol are only found from the food that we eat, something that we put inside our mouth. And unfortunately, the only food-based source of cholesterol are animal-based products because we can never see cholesterol from plant-based products. Now, other cholesterol that we can find in our blood is actually coming from our own production, indigenous production of our cholesterol. So that means, we don't even need external source of cholesterol for our body functions. Basically, we need cholesterol. Our cells needs cholesterol. Our hormones needs cholesterol, right? But our body produces its own need. Unfortunately, what's happening now is that we have too much intake of cholesterol from exogenous sources. And so basically, as you can see in your screen now, you'll find there that the cholesterol component in the blood that each person have is in fact a composition of the cholesterol produced by the blood or by the body, and then the cholesterol from what we eat. Now, this is just giving you an idea of how much cholesterol we're consuming every single day, depending on the food choices. Now, as you can see, all these cholesterol sources are coming from animal-based products. But aside from cholesterol, I will also want to emphasize about saturated fats, because as we have explained earlier, in the management of atherosclerosis, we need to manage patients with high cholesterol in the blood, or we call this hyperlipidemia. So the general principle in managing patients with high cholesterol level is to reduce their intake of saturated fats, and basically especially animal products, and of course the trans fatty acids and the omega-3 fatty acids. But what we need to increase in intake for patient is, number one is fiber, number two is omega-3 fatty acids, and of course the plant sterols, right? You can find good fats from plant-based sources. Now, in terms of saturated fat, I want to introduce this to you because this is really important. Please take note that we have polyunsaturated fat, we have monounsaturated fat, and we also have the saturated fat. So these are the types and the sources of fat, right? Now, for polyunsaturated fat, we have omega-3, which is anti-inflammatory. We find them from in flax seeds, chia seeds, and also sometimes in fish. And then we also have omega-6, which is also an unsaturated fat. Unfortunately, this is pro-inflammatory. Now, Another source here is monounsaturated fat, which is mostly found in plant-based products. So that's example here, very famous, is olive oil. But let me introduce here and emphasize saturated fat. So we have many types of saturated fat. So we have lauric acid, stearic acid, palmitic acid, and myristic acid. But generally, it is divided into basic types, including neutral saturated fat and harmful saturated fat. So coconut oil basically is a neutral saturated fat. Dark chocolate is a neutral saturated fat, and then unfortunately palm oil, meat, and then butter are harmful saturated fat. But again, at the end of the day, all of these are saturated fat. As you would have noticed, we don't have such thing as good saturated fat. All right, so at the end of the day, they're all saturated fat. They will drive your liver to produce more cholesterol than it is needed. Okay, now here in this study, I want to show you that there are really areas in the world where heart disease is not even existing. So now, as you can see, the diet are centered around whole food, plant-based diet. So examples are potatoes, bananas, cassavas. Now you can see that coronary artery disease is not existing in these areas. I also want to show you here some of the studies that were conducted in terms of coronary artery disease reversal. So you may also look at this and search about them. So Dr. Dean Ornish and Dr. Caldwell Esselstyn, I was privileged to meet them in person and hear them talk and learn from them. Now, these people are legendary in terms of implementing lifestyle therapy for coronary artery disease. So these are the first people who were able to establish that heart disease can be reversed utilizing lifestyle therapy. Now, in this study that you can see in your screen right now, so they were able to implement intensive therapeutic lifestyle, including plant-based diet. Of course, physical activity is included, and of course, stress management, and then psychosocial encouragement through a support group. So I'm talking in particular about the Ornish Lifestyle Program. So this is called the Ornish Spectrum. So in the United States right now, the US Medicare is in fact subsidizing this type of program already. They would reimburse a patient undergoing this type of program. And here you will see a significant difference between the lesion in the heart, and then of course after the intervention you will really see a significant change. So you will see that the blood vessel is opening again. Now, this is another study that was conducted by Dr. Esselstyn. You will see here in this angiogram there is a very obvious narrowing of the coronary arteries, but after a year in the program, there is an evident 30% regression of the coronary artery lesion. Now, another set of evidence here is a clear narrowing again of the coronary arteries, but after 30 months of intensive therapeutic lifestyle change, including whole food plant-based diet, and of course physical activity, they were able to see reversal after 30 months. Okay, now my question here is that, is it really a coronary artery disease or is it a culinary disease? So here we can again clearly see the role of intensive therapeutic lifestyle, the role of dietary changes. And so I wanted to introduce to you culinary medicine. In fact, culinary medicine is a new evidence-based field of practice in medicine that blends the art of cooking and the science of medicine. The goal in culinary medicine is to introduce nutrition education, cooking skills, and of course to motivate healthy behaviors among patients. In here, we talk about what we eat, how do we prepare it, what do we put in it, why do we have such food preferences, and how do we deal with unhealthy cravings. Our goal here is to motivate and help our patients sustain their healthy eating patterns. And so in our clinical practice, in case like we may need to prescribe medicine for patients like this, say we need to give clopidogrel and we need to give rosuvastatin to our patient, we never forget to prescribe nutrition to our patients using recipes. Okay, so well, at the end of the day, RX sign actually means recipe. So that's the meaning of RX, right? And so literally we prescribe legumes, for example, 1 to 2 servings in each meal. So here, this is just another session that we had learning about heart disease. It's good to know that it is starting at an early age, and so that we can also help and prevent our kids, to develop fatty streaks. It really depends on the food that we prepare on the table, especially as parents. We prepare the food, we serve them the food, they just eat them, right? And then we train their taste buds as well. So whatever we feed them, they got used to it, and then when they grow up, they feed their family the same thing. So that's how it is to pass lifestyle practices from one generation to another. But we can do something, now we know the cause, and so we know what to do next. So you start, and you can start this on your table right after listening to our program tonight. Start it on your table, start learning on what to prepare food in your family. So I'd like to invite you to attend in our next coming sessions, because we will be learning more. So I hope you learned something from the discussion tonight. I know it is short, but it is very important. Remember, there are over 200 Filipinos who are dying of heart disease every single day. And heart disease is the #1 killer in the country. Yes, we're afraid of the existing pandemic, but again, there are over 200 Filipinos dying of heart disease every day. And this is within the control of our lips.